Understanding finder fees, where opportunity meets risk. As we move forward from Section 15, where we focused on developing a structured and compliant property management plan, we now narrow in on a very specific and often misunderstood area of Arizona law: finder fees. If Section 15 was about building your system, this section is about staying compliant within that system when generating new tenant leads. Because here's the reality: many property managers are always looking for creative ways to fill vacancies quickly. But if you cross the line between a legal referral and unlicensed activity, you are stepping directly into a violation that could cost you your license. This is where ARS paragraph 32-2176 becomes critical. What is a finder fee? A finder fee is a payment made to a person for introducing or arranging an introduction between parties in a rental transaction. At first glance, this seems simple, and even like a great marketing strategy. For example, imagine a tenant in a Phoenix apartment complex refers a friend who ends up leasing a unit. Offering that tenant a financial incentive sounds like a win-win, and in many cases it is legal, but only if you follow very specific rules. Who can receive a finder fee? Arizona law allows a very narrow exception to the general rule that only licensed individuals can be compensated in real estate transactions. A property owner or property management firm may pay a finder fee to an unlicensed tenant in the same apartment complex. This is key. The person receiving the fee must already be a tenant in the property. For example, a tenant living in a Mesa apartment complex can refer a friend and receive a finder fee if that friend signs a lease. However, this does not open the door for the public, vendors, or unlicensed individuals outside the property to start earning referral fees. This is a very limited exception, not a loophole. How the finder fee must be paid. Another important requirement is how the fee is delivered. The finder fee must be credited toward or reduced from the tenant's rent. This means you are not simply handing out cash or writing checks. For example, if the referral earns a $500 finder fee, that amount would typically be applied as a rent credit on the tenant's account. This keeps the transaction within a controlled and documented system, something we emphasized in Section 15 when discussing accounting procedures. What tenants cannot do, the line you cannot cross. This is where most violations occur. Tenants receiving a finder fee are extremely limited in what they are allowed to do. They may only refer prospective tenants. They may not show the property, discuss lease terms, negotiate rental agreements. Let's bring this to life with an example. A tenant refers a friend. That is legal. But if that same tenant starts walking the friend through the unit, explaining rent terms, or helping negotiate the lease, they have crossed into unlicensed activity, and now the broker who allowed it may be in violation as well. Advertising, another common mistake. The law also prohibits unlicensed individuals from advertising or promoting their services in procuring tenants. This means a tenant cannot post online saying, "Refer people to me and I'll help you find an apartment." That is no longer a simple referral. That is acting as an unlicensed agent. This ties directly back to advertising rules under AAC R4-28502 and the broader requirement to prevent misleading or unauthorized real estate activity. What about licensed agents? Here's an important clarification. A residential leasing agent or property manager cannot receive a finder fee. They may, however, receive compensation through lawful commission structures or bonuses under ARS. Paragraph 32-2121. This distinction is critical. Compensation must always flow through proper brokerage channels and comply with Arizona licensing law. This connects directly back to earlier sections on compensation and ARS, paragraph 32-2155. The consequences of getting it wrong. Violating finder fee laws is not a small issue. If a licensee improperly pays a finder fee, the Arizona Department of Real Estate may impose discipline, including suspension, revocation, or civil penalties. This ties directly back to Section 9, violations and enforcement. For example, paying an unlicensed person outside the property to help find tenants could be considered illegal compensation. Even if your intention was to fill a vacancy faster, the consequence could be severe. How this connects back to your plan. Let's bring this full circle back to Section 15. When you build your property management plan, finder fee policies should be clearly defined within your procedures. You should outline who can receive a finder fee, how it is paid, what activities are allowed, what activities are prohibited. This ensures that your team, your tenants, and your business all operate within the law, because without clear policies, small mistakes can turn into major violations. Final thought. Stay in control of the process. Finder fees can be a useful tool, but only when used correctly. They should enhance your marketing efforts, not replace your professional role. At the end of the day, you are the licensed professional responsible for the transaction. And as we've learned throughout this course, responsibility always follows the license. Online discussion. Why does Arizona law limit who can receive a finder fee? Answer: to prevent unlicensed individuals from performing activities that require a real estate license. What is the biggest risk when offering finder fees? Answer: allowing unlicensed individuals to perform licensed activities such as showing property or negotiating leases. How should finder fees be structured within a property management business? Answer: they should be clearly defined in company policies and comply strictly with Arizona law.